morning, Mayor. Good morning, council members. And good morning, City Secretary Anna Russell. I am here to talk about the BP situation and settlement which we have, and I'm very concerned about it because when I'm happy that we have come to a settlement, but when people are left out and not being paid, that gives me a problem. And especially Hamilton Rucker, who was in the meeting originally as the attorney, along with Norman Jolly in the beginning when we started talking about this with David Feldman. Hamilton happens to be a minority attorney. He's African American. And for him not to be paid is quite insulting, I think, to the city. That's not what it's all about. Now, the other two attorneys that were added into the team of attorneys with the city of Houston, I'll just call their name Jan and Dennis, they came in 8 to 9 months later. Hamilton was there in the beginning. Norman Jolly left the team and gave his proxy over to Hamilton. Now there seems to be a problem with Hamilton being given the right revenues, in other words, that he should have, Councilman Costello, that he has worked and earned. And that's why I'm here today. Also, there are problems where the restaurant associations around the city have not ever been able to receive give a claim to BP for their losses. Everyone lost in the city. But we're the big ones here. We're the city of Houston. And after we sued, everybody else joined in with this lawsuit. Harris County, Galveston County, Beaumont, Port Arthur, and Metro, they all joined in. I took flack from it. I'm sure the mayor took flack from it. But the idea is we want fairness. And I do believe that everyone should be compensated. And we need to work out a way for that to happen. Now, Hamilton is on this team, on the staff. There's too much things going on. One of the attorneys had to give back $500,000 in fraudulent charges that he said his client made to be, said he was hurt and charged behind. That's a lot of money. And I don't want it to look like a greed game, because that's what it seems like now, is it's turned to greed and every man for himself, and if you don't have the wherewithal to get your money, you just out of it. Hamilton deserves his $1.3 million. That's how much it is. And I would like for you all to make sure, put the pressure on City Attorney, you're here.
Thank you. Thank you. Your time has expired. Thank you.
Council Member Burks, I acknowledge that there is a dispute among the attorneys who represented the city in this lawsuit on a contingent fee basis, and not wanting to get in the middle of this dispute among the attorneys, we put their portion of the BP settlement in the registry of the court and let them fight it out. We received our portion. Theirs has been set aside as they work their way through their dispute. So if it's a matter of payment to one of the attorneys, it's not actually in the hands of the city any longer. Councilmember Boykins.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for that. But I want to add to what Councilman Burks was saying about my friend Hamilton Rucker, who is a fine, very young, fine, smart attorney in the city of Houston. Donna, my question to you is there anything that the city can do? We talked a little bit about it in private. What the city can, are we in a position to do anything in terms of rewind the tape, I guess, to determine what role Hamilton had, if he had one? He sent me some documentation, and I saw, I'm not a lawyer, but from what I could read, like he was engaged on the beginning end of this thing. But I'm not a lawyer to know what all that means. But
the parties are in litigation, so we're pretty much precluded from doing anything.
Okay.
If I may just say something on this. When I brought this idea to the council, it was through City Attorney Dave Feldman. We met with Hamilton and Norman Jolly. We met with them. So it was already there. The other two attorneys that we're talking about came 8 to 9 months later in on it. They were added into it. So they were not the original attorneys in which we had in the beginning. And so when I came up with this idea, I said, wait a minute, we need to have some outside attorneys to do this also. So we put that together, and they were accepted and included in. But Norman Jolly had to, well, he had some issues, and he just gave his proxy over to Hamilton. And therefore, when the money was coming back, it was a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, the agreement was. But now that's being changed. Metro has Hamilton also there. And so he's not getting all of that money. And I don't know why the newcomers, I'll just call them newcomers, into the case were added on later on, how they have so much power not to provide. They're trying to even get Hamilton to pay the legal expenses, you see. Now, he's not being compensated, but yet still he needs to be paid the legal expenses. And these are things I'm talking about that are not correct. They're not right. And so we need to do something about this.
Okay, Councilmember Boykins, if you have any questions. Vice Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Burks, for coming up. We've had these conversations with the mayor and city attorney, and I do thank them for putting the money aside in the registry and not distributing the money and let the legal process do its job. Yes, it would have been great for everyone to walk away with their fair share, but I think at this point in time, this is the best remedy out there for them. And so, again, I want to thank the mayor and administration for doing what they've done to this point to let them do what they're supposed to do.
Well, I thank you, Councilmember, for saying that, because that is good to let them settle that in court, but that was not the intent in the beginning.
I understand that, and I'm not an attorney, and so they are, and I would love for Mr. Rucker to take his percentage off the top, but we're at a point right now where they have to go in and fight it out.
They were fighting for us in the beginning.
I understand.
Let's remember, they were fighting for the city in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Councilmember Green.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Rev, for coming down here and raising the issue. I want to thank the mayor and the city attorney because I wrote a written request to put it in the registry of the court after I found out what's transpired. I totally agree that if an attorney's name is listed on a pleading within a particular case, that he is or should be required some compensation with regard to this. But from the city's perspective, hopefully this will be a teachable moment. The reason why Mr. Rucker got on the case is because I was challenging Mr. Feldman at the time to bring in more minority attorneys. Right. And now we have qualified when we were able to bring in on a particular litigation. And then, of course, you know, he now has to fight for his money. And these are the challenges that small businesses, minority-owned businesses go through. They figure that they can outspend these smaller companies or these smaller attorney law firms and essentially cheat them out of their money. Mm-hmm. Now, the city of Houston doesn't have any recourse because, again, this is a fight between the attorneys, and I'm glad, and thank you, City Attorney Edmondson, for us not getting into the fight, if you will, and to putting those dollars aside. But I want everybody around this table to understand, this is what happens to small businesses. They get big boyed out of these deals, or they get dollars that should rightfully go to them. They have to fight for it. So they have to fight to get the deal, they have to fight to stay in the deal, and then they have to fight to get paid. So this is what the real world looks like. And I would hope that when picking attorneys, we find attorneys that agree with what the mayor and this administration really, what this council puts forth, and that's an equal opportunity for all here in the city of Houston.
And Councilmember, is there a motion to extend time?
Motion to extend.
Favor opposed, motion carries. Councilmember Brad.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you kindly, colleagues. Councilman Burks, good seeing you again. I want to acknowledge first, for the record, that it was in fact you that brought this whole idea. The city of Houston should pursue this particular BP litigation. And I was very pleased when I saw the former city attorney grasp onto that and move forward. But understand too that, as has been said, there are bar rules which, delve into attorney's fee sharing. If that doesn't work, you can go to litigation, and that's where it is now. And it's probably fair to say that a respected city officials or former city official, and even perhaps yourself, will be brought into the litigation as a witness as to who did what and who didn't do what, etc. But at this point in time, you presented testimony as to who was involved at what point in time. Are you not satisfied with the position that the city has taken up at this point by simply saying, look, leave it to you lawyers to fight over money? I mean, that's a real aberration for lawyers to do that, by the way. But we're not going to get involved in that. We're going to just take the pool of money that's owed to you lawyers and put it over here, let you all, wrangle over that and move on down the road. Do you think that's a reasonable position that the city, you think not?
No.
So what do you think the city should do?
Well, because I brought it to the city, because the city attorney at that time who was in position understood that we had a verbal agreement as we began to go into this. I just want those agreements to be kept and maintained, those verbal agreements. Now, when the question came about adding on Janet and Dennis, I had no objections. They called me up and said, we want to add some more to it. I said, okay, do they have any experience in this? Ms. Fox had no experience in this type of litigation at all. Now, when I began to look at no experience versus I have the experienced crew from Mississippi who did this in Alabama, who was successful in getting them their monies, and they were part of the $19 billion settlement. When I began to look at that, I said, well, wait a minute. Why aren't you being paid? He said, because they said, because they're putting in people who know nothing about this. And there were some problems, some issues. But I'm off of council at that point in time. I have no strength in this unless it doesn't go well at the end. But I just want my colleagues, my ex-colleagues to understand this. That when I brought this was to help the city of Houston out because we were losing money. We had lost money during the delay there of fishing in the Gulf. We lost it, and we were trying to get our money back. And I believe, Mayor, that we should have gotten more than what we got now. We settled for. Because when I look back at it, on a recreational fisherman, just to dig off.
But let me check if I may, please, with all due respect. I think the city has done at this point the best thing the city can do, and I think the legal thing the city should do, the city has done it. The lawyers know how to do contracts, and those lawyers involved in this particular piece of litigation, they either did contractual arrangements or they should have done contractual arrangements, and those contractual arrangements will be very appropriate in determining who's responsible for what share of the fee. And all the testimony that you're presenting here today, that's probably proper in the litigation process among the lawyers at some point down the road.
I have no problem with that.
So I appreciate you bringing this idea to the city. I appreciate former city attorney David Feldman and others pursuing it, the lawyers who worked on it. And I do want to concur with what Councilman Green said. We have to watch it very closely to make sure that, small business owners, when they get involved in these contractual arrangements on behalf of city matters, that we ensure to the extent that we can ensure that the contractual arrangement is right. But in this case, it wasn't the city's obligation to do contractual arrangement. It was those particular lawyers when they engaged as a consultant. I'm involved in deals with your multiple players and the different pieces to the action. Well, I'm responsible for my particular deliverable and my contractual clauses I want in there. So I think the city has done what the city can and should do.
And I believe that the city is, I'm happy that we got a settlement. I'm very happy with that. I'm happy with everything. I want everyone paid. And that's what I'm looking at now. There's a lot of money involved here, and I'm looking at people just
I
fine.
think the time of Roman John was involved in front like you said.
Motion to
Thank you.